So now I'll like to introduce Dr. Radhika Tandon. She's Professor of Ophthalmology, RP Center, AIIMS, New Delhi. Academic awards and professional honors. She has got many. 1993 gold medal by Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh. She attended Global Eye Banking Leadership Summit, Seattle, USA. 2011 American Academy of Ophthalmology Achievement Award. 2013 Member Expert Committee for National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization, NOTO. 2015 appointed as a technical expert, CBBF Initiative Punjab, and will always remain indebted to her for that. 2016 President Eye Bank Association of India, Vice President Association of Banks of Asia, advisory member of the Global Alliance of Eye Bank Associations. 2017 she became member advisory committee, National Program for Control of Blindness, and 2018 chairperson NPCBVI subcommittee on elimination of corneal blindness, Ministry of Health, Family Welfare. So over to ma'am with her keynote address.
Sorry, Rakesh, I have another VC lined up, so I would like to be excused.
Sure,
Thank you very much. I would have loved to be part of it, but have to leave for now. Thanks
a lot, sir. We will update about the proceeding. We'll update you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everybody. It is so nice to be part of this very nice function, which is being organized by the Corneal Blindness Backlog Free Punjab team. And it is really an honor and privilege for me that I have been given a chance to get to know all of you and to contribute in my own way. And I've also had an opportunity to learn so much from all of you. So therefore, I'm very, very happy that you're having this program today. So much has been said and so many good things have been shared. I'd just like to give you my little perspective today. Let me just share my presentation. I hope you can see my slides.
Yeah, we can see. We can see your slides.
Yes. So we are in a different time nowadays. We cannot meet in one big room, and but in a way, if you see, there are a lot of progress. We are able to sit in different corners and attend, and then one can, not disrupt one's schedule. So one has to look at the positive side of things. Now, see, if you really see, how do you want to look at the glass? You want to look at it as half empty or half full. So we keep crying that cornea donation is not enough, it is so less, etc. So if you look at it from the point of view of our potential, of where we can go, yes, it is less. If you look at it from the point of view of how much is needed, there also it is less. But if you look at it from a different way, if you really see from the world statistics, the amount of collections in the world, our country is second only to USA. So look at it from that point of view, it's quite a great achievement. After USA, India has the highest corneal donation and corneal transplantation. And through the course of my presentation, and all of you obviously know in the heart of hearts that India, it is not at all a problem for it to overtake USA in this. We just have to set a target and we have to proceed, and we can overtake USA without any problem. So the current status is that we are second to USA, and the way forward is that we are going to overtake USA and be the top. Now, one thing I learned from the Corneal Blindness Backlog Free Punjab initiative and the amazing leadership of Madam Vinnie Mahajan and Mr. Hussain Lalji and the entire team is that there is a tremendous sort of impetus or a tremendous boost which can be given to the doctors and the medical profession by a very phenomenal bureaucratic leadership and administrative leadership. And there are so many good people that we have that we just need to get everybody to work together, as Madam said. So a simple step is that we go scientifically. We look at the data and we don't get upset that the target is too high. We look at the data and we set little targets. Just to give you a simple example, when ma'am said that can we do a corneal blindness backlog free, corneal blindness free Punjab, So we realized that corneal blindness free Punjab is not easy, not immediately, because when we looked at what is blindness and what are its causes and etc., you cannot aim for a corneal blindness free Punjab. But yes, we could aim for a corneal blindness backlog free Punjab. You know what your backlog is. So initially it was decided that let's first get data and calculate the backlog. So that took a few months. After that, when you looked at the backlog, we said, now we have to get rid of this backlog and what are the things that are required. So therefore you have data, you analyze it, you interpret it, then you think, and then you plan and then you proceed. And that was the best part about this corneal blindness backlog free initiative. And again, I have no words to say how impressed I am with the government of Punjab that you actually showed that such a thing is possible. Another point I would say that as far as eye banking and corneal transplantation is concerned, yes, eye banks and hospitals are a dream team. But even this dream team gets stuck in various barriers and hurdles. And it is the civil society, the common man, plus our NGO leaders, our social workers, and our administrative leaders, the police, the Ministry of Education, all of them, if we are able to join hands with us, the situation becomes very different. And we know that everybody is very busy. We cannot expect them to spend all their energy on this. But if we give them certain key targets, for them, it is very easy often, and not only to tell us how to do it, or even to ring up somebody and even get things going. Now, India is a very vast country. There is a rural and an urban area, and one should not have a sort of a mental block or a kind of a very rigid attitude that aisa hi hona hai ya yehi theek hai. Because if we talk about hospital cornea retrieval program, that is very good, but it is better to focus that in the urban areas. But at the same time, the rural areas, it may not be very practically feasible to encourage donation from all the farmers or all the residents in the rural areas. But what we can do in the rural areas is help the people there to avoid the injuries and avoid the infection, so that the people in rural areas are not burdened unnecessarily by avoidable corneal blindness. So for the rural areas, we need to have a different focus. It should be on prevention and also quick provision of medical care so that their eyes can be saved. So modernization, is there a new way, and can we think out of the box? And there is no doubt we can. So even in the rural areas, internet is going everywhere. One can have a helpline system where if anybody gets an eye injury, they link up with the hospital and the hospital will give them advice what to do so that they don't reach the stage of requiring a corneal transplantation. So we need to have a new outlook, look, learn, adapt, and proceed. And one has to realize that we are, after all, not a very wealthy country. We are doing well, but we have limited resources, and there are so many things that those resources have to be used for. Let us look at our existing infrastructure. We have so many good medical colleges where staff is there, the facilities are there. We need to energize them and get them passionately involved and see what they can contribute. And then, of course, we have eye banks. They may be associated with hospital. There may be standalone eye banks. And everywhere we should have flexibility of resources, use innovative means, try to have public-private partnerships. We mustn't forget the fact that we require 100,000 transplants. We were supposed to cover that by 2020. And the actual transplants were only about 30,000, though the donations were higher. So 30, 40,000, they're quite target. If you look at the general scenario for the country, as president of Eye Bank Association of India, I had encouraged that let us, using the Punjab model of a corneal blindness backlog-free initiative, it sort of motivated me to say that let us aim at least for eradication of avoidable corneal blindness. So we start a miracle by dream in India. What is miracle? Miracle means a mega initiative for the eradication of corneal blindness eventually by dream. Digitization, re-energization, education, advocacy, and multitasking. And in this, one step is that we start to get rid of the backlog of surgically treatable corneal blindness. This can be started. We need to have a list of patients who require surgery. We need to calculate how many corneas we need. And then it gives people also a very specific motive that I need to arrange at least 1 or 2 corneas per week for this area. For the other area, I need to arrange 10 to 20 corneas. And once you know that, it gives even the social worker and the healthcare worker or the grief counselor a little bit more targeted approach. So they should have the knowledge of what they are doing, how it can change somebody's life. They have to have the right attitude. We have to have a good responsiveness. Now, for example, if somebody in a hospital wants to donate the cornea, there has to be a nearby eye bank which is going to respond quickly. In case there is no nearby government eye bank available, then one should have a tie-up with the private eye bank or the district hospital. So we really need to map everywhere out that if somebody wants to donate the cornea, particularly in urban areas, I understand that rural areas may not be possible, but let us focus on the urban areas providing the cornea and rural areas avoiding the blindness. Information-based, one can use all the technology, keeping in view the safety, values, communication, and analytical and problem solving. Now, what happened during COVID? COVID has definitely created a setback because the virus spreads in the body and it enters the body via the respiratory system, the nose and the mouth, but also the eyes. And there is a fear that the virus may be active in the tear film and the surface of the cornea. And even if not present in the tear film and surface of cornea, but in approaching the dead body, if it was COVID positive, that there would be a risk to the eye bank team. So initially, there was a stop to eye banking because the country was coming to terms with the situation. But to give due credit to the entire country, we have made a lot of progress in the last 3-4 months. We now have adequate PPE, we have adequate masks, we do have adequate knowledge. So now eye banking can be restarted. So as we have started with the lockdown where everything was completely stopped and there was a phased reopening. Similarly, for eye banking, as we see, all the various eye banks have had a dramatic drop in their performance of this year's 6 months compared to last year's 6 months. But this is not something to be very upset about. After all, COVID is a very serious situation, but we will look forward to now bouncing back up. So giving you examples of various eye banks, some have dropped by 50%, some have dropped by 40%, some have even dropped by 87 or 88%. Basically depending upon what was the COVID situation or the pandemic situation in that part. So if you look at these cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Chennai, Coimbatore, Madurai, Hyderabad, in these at the status when they were having more than 600 new cases per day, these are the places where the eye banks have had a dramatic drop, and that is expected. Now, looking at the initial figures from Punjab, for example, at a stage when Punjab was having less than 100 cases per day, there was a decrease of only 8.4% in the collection and 2.5%, in fact, increase in transplants. The increase in transplants was basically because there would have been more therapeutic cases and they were able to supply people who may have not been able to get operated in other places. There was a 55% decrease in collection and a 59% decrease in transplant. So this is the data from Punjab. So you can see how Punjab was doing a very good job in controlling the number of cases. And at that time, when they were in the green zone, it was possible for them to continue the eye donation and the collection activity. Surgical utility during the lockdown period, the routine optical keratoplasties were put on hold and only emergency therapeutic surgeries were done. So as you see, the utilization, the number of therapeutic cases have increased, which correspondingly increases your cornea utilization rate, because earlier a lot of corneas were discarded because they were not good for optical purpose. But the moment you increase your therapeutic cases, the not so good corneas also get used. And different examples from all over the country where depending upon where the pandemic was at that time. So for example, in Hyderabad, there were 0 cases in April. In Delhi National Eye Bank, it was 0 in April, May and June. And now we have restarted. In Chennai, it was a little bit later. It was 0 in May and June. So as and when, wherever the pandemic was raging, that time the collection activity had dropped to 0. So we have now better knowledge, we have gathered information, we have resources and implementation. So now one can approach the donor families and one can go ahead with eye donation and corneal transplantation with safety of the staff, taking care of PPE, masks, etc. I would like to thank all the people from the various eye banks, Dr. Arif from Government of Punjab, who presented shared the data. I'll just give you a little snapshot about the surgeon's perspective, simply again, because to motivate people for donation, Dr. Rakesh said that we still need to motivate people to get back and to still continue the activity of donation. Now, as far as keratoplasty during the COVID time, when all routine surgeries were stopped and only emergency cases were going on, so there was a case of case selection, donor tissue, and surgical considerations. And at that time, emergencies were people who had perforations or melts, painful bullous keratopathy. These are the, even presently, these are the keratoplasties which are considered that it is safe to do, or it is sort of justified to do. And very routine surgeries still should be postponed as far as possible. Routine surgeries at the moment, not many people are doing. Donor tissue, this is another very interesting thing, that optical grade tissue is kept in MK or cortisol, which has its time limit of about 2 weeks. However, after some, when we found that there were no more tissue available, we actually had to use the glycerine preserved corneas. And we also in many cases had to use a patient's own tissue in the form of Tandon's patch graft to protect the eye when there was a shortage of corneas. And then surgical considerations, all the recipients or the people undergoing surgery, they are screened for COVID. If an antigen test is negative, it has to be confirmed with an RT-PCR. And the moment they have symptoms, or of course, they have to undergo RT-PCR. Now, looking at the type of surgery, because there was a drop in the high quality corneas that we were getting, so DSEC and DMEC are hardly being done all over the country. A few cases have started again since August onwards, but PK, LK and patch grafts are going on. OT arrangements, again, it took time because earlier we wanted to save the PPE for people who are running the battle of COVID. So we did not want to consume the PPE when it was unnecessary, but now by September, there is no shortage as such. So therefore, all precautions have to be taken in the OT using, if it's a known positive, then it has to be operated. If it's an emergency surgery in a known COVID positive patient, it has to be operated in a dedicated COVID hospital and a dedicated COVID. Just giving a quick presentation, a 10-year-old child had trauma with a fingernail 5 weeks ago, had watering redness and pain and an opacity for a month. He had complained of diminution of vision 1 week after the injury. He consulted multiple doctors, visited multiple hospitals, and was finally referred to us for keratoplasty. But the patient came right in the heat of the pandemic. The vision was very poor. There was a definite infection. There was a melt, iris prolapse, pseudocornea formation, and the surgery was planned as a patch graft under GA. This was a situation when there were no fresh corneas available, so we had to use a glycerine preserved cornea. In interest of time, I'm not showing the video. So that this is what the patient looked like using a glycerine preserved cornea. Post-operatively, the eye was saved, the patient was comfortable, the AC was formed, and the patient regained a little bit of vision, and later on we will be doing optical keratoplasty. This is another example of a patient who came post-DSEC, stopped medication, and even though we were giving telemedicine services, still often the patients were not able to come on time because they were having lockdown. They were not able to move from place to one place to the other. Similarly, another case of chemical injury, so emergency keratoplasty had to be done using a glycerine preserved cornea. And here we have an example of a lamellar surgery done using a glycerine preserved cornea to help a patient who had a chemical burn. So glycerine preserved cornea has come to our help, and in future I will encourage that if there is any tissue which is not used within the time limit of its medium, it should be shifted to glycerine, because the benefit is it can be used in such emergency situations in far off locations. It can be kept at room temperature, and it can be kept up to a year for emergency cases. So instead of discarding the corneas, one should supply them to the medical colleges at least, so where they may not have an eye bank, so that at least the surgeons there can help the patients and do the timely surgery instead of the person losing the eye and become no perception of light. So we had many examples of patients presenting late. They had endophthalmitis, corneal melting, choroidal detachments, retinal detachments. So if all these patients can be taken care of sooner, it can avoid such a devastating damage to the eye. So patient follow-up issues were there after surgeries. We were helping them with telemedicine. Non-compliance with medications was also there due to lack of accessibility during lockdown, but the situation has definitely much improved. So I would definitely say that the Corneal Blindness Backlog Free Initiative of Punjab is fantastic, and it is really remarkable what you all have achieved, and one has to continue and together, and of course I wish you all the very, very best. And I really appreciate all your working together, the government, the private, the eye banks, the community, as well as the corneal surgeons. This kind of collaboration has to succeed, and this actually should be a model. One has to let go of one's own ego that I did this and you did that. It has to be as a team, and one has to target that there is no reason why any person who requires a cornea should not have it when it is required.
So thanks a lot, ma'am. And it was a wonderful presentation. And hopefully the COVID situation, which we have seen the setback to the eye donations and keratoplasty surgery, but after this meeting, I think something good will come out of it. So thanks a lot. So now, so an award of honor for Madam. She has been our technical expert for 5 years, and hopefully she'll continue to be with us always. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is a token of love from all of us.